Disappointed, she walked out. Her wife thought she'd leave, but Old Boo went to the relief center, surprising the staff. Yet, Old Boo only received $19, which was nowhere near enough to cover her debts. On the way home, it seemed she made a mind-blowing decision. Eventually, she arrived at a luxurious apartment once filled with her former colleagues. Here, Old Boo swallowed her pride and gently begged for some spare change. Some lent a helping hand out of nostalgia, while others turned a blind eye. Finally, she stood before her agent Joe, tears blurring her vision. Joe helped her cover the last sum, enabling Old Boo to pay debts, retrieve the kids, and feel the burden finally lifted. The family just survived the winter. In spring, Joe found Old Boo, saying he'd got a warm-up match. However, Old Boo wondered if the club would agree after her dismissal. Joe said it was just a one-off fight, not a return, against the world's second-ranked heavyweight. Since her opponent was injured and they couldn't find a suitable replacement quickly, they picked Old Boo. All she had to do was act as a punching bag. She just needed to be a sparring partner to earn $250. Old Boo hugged Joe excitedly. This sum was their lifeline. But on the day of the match, Joe heard Old Boo's stomach growling and realized she hadn't eaten all day. He couldn't help but tease her. How could she fight on an empty? So, he got her fried rice. Old Boo was about to gorge, but Joe stopped her, fearing she'd dirty her freshly wrapped bandages, so he fetched a spoon. This giant bowl of fried rice was enough to make Old Boo drool like crazy. She looked around and noticed no one was watching, so this awkward scene was witnessed by a passing journalist who couldn't believe the former boxing champ now ate like a dog. Before she could finish her meal, staff came to call her to the ring. Facing the number 2 in the world, Old Boo is as cool as a cucumber. She greeted the audience warmly, and the crowd responded enthusiastically, causing some subtle changes in Old Boo as the match began. The number 2 fighter unleashed a fierce attack, using their height and reach to keep Old Boo under constant pressure. Old Boo couldn't fight back, enduring hits until the left hook floored her. Then, she just needed to lie still to get paid. She suddenly laughed, confusing the referee. She rose slowly. Life's burdens couldn't defeat her. What are a few punches? Known as the Wild Bull, she could KO foes with the right timing. She seized the opening, punching her opponent in the face. Sticking to the motto strike when the iron is hot, Old Boo delivered another powerful blow, a perfect counter that left everyone stunned. Even Joe was wide-eyed. She shouted with excitement, unaware that her previous work had strengthened her injured hand again. This time, she had her opponent cornered. She battered her opponent into submission, forcing the referee to intervene, and the world's second-ranked fighter fell. Old Boo again proved her might, still the invincible Wild Bull. Post-match, she gobbled the fried rice in one go. Subsequently, numerous reporters flocked to interview her, propelling her to fame. Yet at home, she feigned distress, leaving her family anxious. But the next second, even though her wife was happy for Old Boo, she was mostly worried, asking if this was really the last match. Next day, Old Boo arrived at the dock as usual but was chosen by the officials. After all, she defeated the world's second-ranked, so she should earn well. Old Boo explained she'd get only half of $250, leaving $5 after debts. The poster just smiled and praised her fight. He just told her to keep working, and soon after, Joe came back and secured her another boxing match. He also hinted at a big payday for this match, and Old Boo felt like it was her second shot at turning her life around. However, her wife was not happy at all, worried Old Boo might get hurt again. So she went to Joe's house, but Joe didn't want to open the door when he saw her. Eventually, Joe had to open the door, and when she saw the empty living room, his wife was stunned to realize Joe had sold all his furniture to fund Old Boo. She believed Old Boo could rise to the top again, and was putting everything on the line. Overnight, Joe sought out the club owner. He negotiated for more matches for Old Boo, and finally, she started a more structured training regimen, becoming an even more dedicated boxer. Soon after, Old Boo was in match after match, fully embodying the spirit of a wild bull. Her punches were sharp and fierce, and her greatest improvement was in her ability to take hits. No matter how many punches she absorbed, she could still stand strong. She retaliated mercilessly. Once she seized an opportunity, she could knock out her opponent with a single punch. However, merely taking hits wouldn't be sufficient against stronger opponents. Against such a heavy-hitting, powerful opponent, Old Boo found it particularly tough. Her opponent seized every opportunity, raining punches down on Old Boo like a storm. The last punch even cracked Old Boo's rib, and the immense pain made her cling to her opponent until the referee was forced to separate them. During the break, Joe advised her not to sit down to confuse her opponent and put psychological pressure on them. This tactic worked, but her opponent relentlessly struck Old Boo's ribs. Despite pretending indifference, the pain forced her onto the defensive. Her opponent seized the chance, punched her face hard, and knocked out her mouth guard. As old Boo cheated, her kids' words flashed through her mind. She seemed to hear her kids' hunger, her wife's sorrow, in the watered milk. Old Boo smiled when coming to her senses. Even destiny couldn't take her down. What significance could these minor injuries hold? Her opponent was shaken by the scene and launched a fierce attack, leaving the referee helplessly watching. Each punch felt like hitting fate itself, and eventually Old Boo's fists and feet brought her opponent down to the canvas. In the context of the Great Depression, she was like a flickering flame, shining a light of hope for those feeling down. The next day, Old Boo returned to the relief center, and people buzzed about her arrival. Subtitle: but she came not to collect but to repay. Old Boo's deeds drew reporters vying for coverage, mostly asking about her next match vs. the world's notoriously ruthless No. 1. He once killed 2 opponents in matches from concussions. His wife was restless, not wanting Old Boo to risk his life fighting. Even the club owner urged Old Boo to back off, but she stood firm, leaving the owner speechless as he set up a meeting with Max. Max, young and arrogant, is always flanked by 2 beaters. As the world's top, she's haughty. Old Boo's warm greeting was met with her threat that heroes perish. Even as she walked away, she insulted Old Boo's wife, but Old Boo cleverly diffused the situation with a high EQ response. After all, if participating in a match could truly improve her life, she would choose to confront the challenge with even greater ferocity. If you enjoyed this story, please hit subscribe so you don't miss out on other fun content.